Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Virtually Sunday, a ministry of Whatsoever You Do Incorporated. I'm the Reverend Bridget Daniels, the senior pastor of Union Congregational United Church of Christ in downtown Green Bay, Wisconsin. When I was growing up, Palm Sunday was one of my favorite days to go to church. I mean, come on. What kid doesn't like being given something tangible? And the whole celebration encourages one to wiggle, waving palms and fidgeting with them. The message of the day that I took away was that Palm Sunday represented Jesus at the top of his game. He triumphantly rode into Jerusalem with power and might, only to have the crowd turn on him just a few short days later. I think this is a pretty typical understanding of the celebration. It's typical, but it's off. What this way of framing Palm Sunday doesn't take into account is that Jesus' ride into Jerusalem was a counter-protest. In their book, The Last Week, Marcus Borg and John Dominic Crossan explain that while a crowd was shouting Hosanna as Jesus was riding into Jerusalem from one corner, the Romans were conducting a military parade from the other, bringing in extra troops to keep the peace. I use that term with my tongue very firmly in my cheek. They were there to keep the peace during the Jewish celebration of Passover. And remember, Passover is a commemoration of God's liberation of the Jewish people from an oppressive regime. Thus, it's a potentially dangerous celebration, particularly when you are the current day oppressor. What this means is that Palm Sunday is less about Jesus' triumph and more about his critique of violence and oppression. It's less about a feel-good parade and more about Jesus taking a stand against the forces of the empire. So what do we do with this? What does it matter in our current lived reality? Palm Sunday is not merely an invitation to speak truth to power. It's a summons to do so. Now, before someone gets all bunchy complaining that I'm being political, I'll tell you that I have been preaching this throughout my ministry, just as loudly when I've agreed with the White House as when I don't. We are in a critical era in the church. Following Jesus has the potential to transform the world, but it's not triumphant Jesus that will do so. It's liberator Jesus. As my colleague Mark Sandlin wrote, we're watching God Bless America get used like a magical spell to baptize violence and greed and discrimination. And too many pulpits are silent. Too many churches are afraid of offending the wrong donor. Too many pastors are trading the gospel for good Yelp reviews. Too many congregations want the comfort of faith without the cost of discipleship. Friends, if your Christianity doesn't make oppressive systems nervous, it's not following the teachings of Jesus. If your Christianity doesn't break the chains of the marginalized, then it's just a lullaby for the powerful. If your Christianity wouldn't get you in trouble with Pharaoh, then it's probably just chaplaincy for the empire. With this understanding of Palm Sunday in hand, it turns out that Palm Sunday still is one of my favorite days to go to church.